The movie begins with a young boy named Christian Wolf, and from the very first scene, it's clear this child experiences the world in a way that the people around him simply aren't equipped to understand. His parents have brought him to see a specialist, a doctor who runs a highly regarded facility dedicated to treating children on the autism spectrum. After spending time observing Christian, the doctor delivers his assessment calmly but clearly. Christian should stay at the facility. The structure, the controlled environment, the specialized care, all of it would give him the best possible foundation for his development. It sounds reasonable. It sounds right. Christian's father refuses without hesitation. This isn't a man who arrives at decisions slowly. He's military, built on discipline, and his philosophy about raising children, especially his children, has no room for what he sees as sheltering. The world isn't going to accommodate Christian. Loud environments aren't going away. Unpredictable people aren't going away. Chaos isn't going away. So rather than protect his son from those things, he decides his son is going to be hardened against them. It's the kind of love that looks almost indistinguishable from cruelty from the outside. But it comes from a real place of father who believes, with complete conviction, that softness will destroy his son faster than the world ever could. And that single decision made in that room, in that moment, sets the course for everything that follows. The film doesn't stay with Christian's childhood for long. It shifts us into a completely different world, the United States Treasury Department, where a sharp and quietly formidable analyst named Mary Beth Medina has just started working under the department's director, Ray King. King is experienced, methodical, and perceptive. After reviewing Medina's work, he doesn't hide his impression she's overqualified for where she is. So he asks her directly, why has someone with her abilities never applied to larger, more prestigious organizations? Medina keeps her answer steady. She prefers smaller environments. She works better that way. But King isn't there to compliment her. He slides her criminal record across the desk. Weapons charges, assault and battery, attempted murder. The kind of history that shouldn't exist in someone sitting across from the head of a federal department. The room gets very quiet. King lays it out plainly. Right now, he's the only thing standing between her and serious prison time. And in exchange for that protection, she's going to work directly for him. No other case files, no other Treasury personnel. Total secrecy, investigating a single individual who has been appearing in the background of some of the most dangerous criminal operations on Earth. Not a trafficker, not a warlord, an accountant. Now the film returns back to Christian Wolf, who is actually an adult, and it does it brilliantly, through small details that accumulate into something genuinely unnerving. His evenings follow a precise routine. He comes home, he eats alone, then he goes to his room, floods it with strobing lights, fills it with music at a volume that would drive most people out of the building, and uses a wooden rod to deliver firm, repeated pressure to his own legs. It's controlled. It's deliberate. It's his system for processing the overwhelming sensory accumulation of a day spent functioning in a world that wasn't designed for a mind like his. A flashback breaks through the routine. Christian's mother, worn down by years of struggling to parent a child the world kept telling her she wasn't handling correctly, eventually reaches the end of what she can carry. Despite his father's attempts to hold the family together, she makes the decision to leave. She walks away. It plants something in Christian that never fully heals. But his father doesn't fall apart. He responds the only way he knows how, by training harder. He brings in elite martial arts instructors. He enrolls both Christian and his younger brother in demanding combat programs. He pushes them through conditions most adults couldn't endure. His logic is uncompromising. If the world is going to be difficult, his sons are going to be more difficult than the world. Now flash forward to the present. Christian maintains a secret storage facility that looks like something between a private armory and an offshore vault. High-caliber weapons organized with military precision, rare, expensive paintings, and enormous amounts of cash bundled, sorted, and stored in the currencies of a dozen different countries. This man has been living inside the criminal underworld for a long time, and he has been extraordinarily careful about it. Christian receives a call from a mysterious woman, a handler of sorts, someone who operates entirely in the shadows and exists to keep him protected and on course. Her message is straightforward. The wrong people are starting to look in his direction. He needs to do something normal, something visible, something that, on paper, looks like the work of a completely unremarkable small-town accountant. So Christian takes a legitimate client. The company is called Living Robotics, a technology firm founded by Lamar Blackburn, a self-made billionaire with a reputation for genuine humanitarian work. The company's flagship division builds advanced prosthetic limbs for people who've lost them: veterans, accident survivors, children caught in conflict zones. Blackburn is publicly celebrated. He's the kind of man who gets invited to give speeches about hope and innovation. But something inside the company's finances isn't adding up. A junior cost accountant named Dana Cummings noticed a discrepancy, something she couldn't fully explain. something that felt wrong even if she didn't have the experience to fully articulate why. Management's official position is that Dana stumbled into something she didn't understand, and there's nothing actually missing. But Blackburn, wanting to be certain before the company's massive upcoming public offering, brings in Christian to take an independent look. What Christian does with those financial records is where the film earns every bit of its premise. Dana spent months working through a single fiscal year of ledgers. Christian processes 15 years of complete financial history in one night. And by the next morning, he hasn't just found the discrepancy, he's mapped its entire architecture. The pattern was almost perfectly concealed. Revenue climbs year after year, but profits quietly bleed out, yet there's no logical reason for it. No manufacturing costs spike. No large capital expenditure pulling the numbers down. It simply doesn't balance. Then in a specific year, profits suddenly recover and begin growing again, but in a way that doesn't correspond to anything real happening inside the business. Christian's conclusion is precise. Someone has been routing money out of Living Robotics through a company that exists only on paper. A ghost entity. And then here's the part that's genuinely clever: the stolen funds were used to purchase shares in Living Robotics itself. So as the real company grew in value, the stolen money grew with it, quietly converting itself into legitimate profit and feeding it back into the books. This wasn't just theft. It was a long-term ownership play. Someone was stealing from the company with one hand while slowly buying control of it with the other. Dana is stunned. She's been staring at pieces of this for months. Christian assembled the whole picture before sunrise. And in those quiet hours working side by side, something unexpected starts happening between them. Dana doesn't treat Christian the way most people do, with that particular mixture of confusion and careful distance that he's learned to expect. She's curious about him in a direct, uncomplicated way. And Christian, almost without meaning to, begins responding. But the moment that investigation gets close to the truth, everything starts moving very fast and very dangerously. Before Christian can trace the full trail of missing money back to its source, he gets an abrupt call from the company. His services are no longer needed. The investigation is being shut down. Management has decided there's no real problem after all. Christian knows exactly what that means. Someone with authority inside Living Robotics has just been informed that the investigation is getting too close. And shutting it down cleanly isn't enough, because both Christian and Dana now know enough to be a problem. Christine decides to visit the house of one of the shareholders. He immediately suspects that something is wrong and starts following him. Braxton quickly escapes before Christine can confront him. The shareholder connected to the company turns up dead, shot. Christian reads it immediately for what it actually is, a message. The people behind this conspiracy are eliminating anyone who might be able to confirm what's buried in those books. They're burning the trail behind them, person by person. And Dana is on that list. Christian pulls her out immediately. He doesn't explain everything, there's no time for that, but he makes it absolutely clear she cannot stay where she is. He moves her to a hotel, somewhere no one would connect to either of them, and plants himself between her and whoever is coming. Alone together for the first time, without the distraction of work between them, Dana starts asking Christian the questions she's been holding back since the day she met him. How does he know how to do all of this? The weapons in his house, the safe room, the way he moves through dangerous situations like he's done it 1,000 times, because he has. Christian answers in his careful, measured way. His father believed survival was the only thing worth teaching. So from the time he and his brother were small, they were trained combat, weapons, discipline, endurance. The world was the enemy, and you either got ready for it or got consumed by it. And then he does something he almost never does. He talks about what his life has actually felt like from the inside. The way social interactions require conscious effort that other people never seem to need. The way emotional situations arrive without instruction manuals. The way he has spent his entire life translating a world that wasn't built with him in mind. Dana listens, really listens. And then a moment opens up between them, quiet and fragile and surprisingly real. She leans toward him, and Christian redirects the conversation back to the case. Because that's who he is. Because connection, even when it's right in front of him, requires a kind of navigation he hasn't fully learned yet. But he noticed. He always notices. He just doesn't always know what to do with what he notices. Meanwhile, Medina's investigation has gained serious momentum. She attends a press conference for another investigation. During the event, she receives a call from the Department of Homeland Security where they inform her that after running the facial recognition system, they found a video clip connected to the mysterious accountant. After receiving intelligence footage recorded years ago by an undercover agent, she watches a man systematically eliminate 9 dangerous criminals in a single encounter. The footage is partial and grainy, but the audio is usable. And in the audio, running beneath everything else, the man is quietly reciting nursery rhymes to himself throughout the entire incident. Medina pulls in linguistic analysts, behavioral specialists, neurological consultants. The profile they build is methodical and unsettling. The rhythmic repetition isn't stress behavior or a trained psychological anchor, it's a coping mechanism. A way of maintaining internal order during overwhelming external chaos. The precision, the emotional detachment, the extraordinary control, these aren't characteristics produced by a covert training program. They're the characteristics of a mind that has spent a lifetime developing workarounds for sensory overload. The accountant, they conclude, is almost certainly autistic. And this doesn't make him less dangerous. It makes him more explicable, which in some ways is even more frightening. Because it means every single thing that makes him nearly impossible to stop was built, deliberately, out of something the world once tried to call a limitation. They eventually pull a name, Christian Wolf. But his official profile is almost comically small, a modest accountant working out of a strip mall, serving small local clients, earning unremarkable fees. The paper trail is an almost perfect misdirection. There's almost nothing there, except one thing. Large, repeated charitable donations to a specialized neurological institute. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Year after year. That one's not a cover. And this is where the film delivers one of its most quietly devastating revelations. Ray King finally tells Medina the truth, the real truth, about why this case has defined his career. Years ago, he was physically present at the location shown in that intelligence footage. He was there the night the accountant eliminated those 9 men. He saw it happen, and when it was over, the accountant turned his weapon directly at King and asked him a single question. "Were you a good dad?" King said yes, and the accountant put the gun down and walked away. King was so shaken, so fundamentally rattled by what he had just witnessed and survived, that he was ready to hand in his badge on the spot. He didn't feel like an agent anymore. He felt like a man who had looked at something he couldn't explain and barely made it out. But then a woman called him, a voice he didn't recognize, giving him precise, detailed intelligence on a major criminal operation. He acted on it. It was legitimate. She called again, and again. Over years, her anonymous tips transformed his career, turning him into one of the most effective agents in the department, built almost entirely on a foundation he couldn't explain and couldn't reveal. He never learned who she was. But the trail always led, in one direction or another, back toward the man they called the accountant. King also tells Medina about Francis Silverberg, a brilliant, imprisoned financial architect who managed money for some of the world's most dangerous organizations. When Christian was in prison, Francis recognized something extraordinary in him and spent years teaching him everything: how illegal money moves, how it hides, how it transforms itself into something clean. Christian absorbed all of it at a speed that left Francis in something close to disbelief. Medina asks Ray, but why was Christian in prison at all? King explains it. Christine once served in the military. After his mother abandoned the family, Christian and his father eventually encountered her again. She had remarried, and she was dead. When they came to that house, her new husband made it clear they weren't welcome. The confrontation turned violent. In the chaos, a security guard opened fire. And Christian's father, the man who had spent a lifetime hardening his sons against every threat the world could throw at them, stepped directly in front of that bullet to shield Christian. He died right there. And Christian, the man his father made him into, was sent to prison for what happened in that house. The prison sentence didn't break him. It educated him. And the day Francis Silverberg was released from prison and immediately murdered by the very criminals he had once served, Christian tracked down the men responsible and made sure they understood what that cost. Medina asks Ray why he is telling her such personal information. Ray calmly replies that he is about to retire soon, and before leaving his position, he wants Medina to continue his work and take over communications with the mysterious woman. Medina suddenly receives a phone call. The same mysterious woman is on the line. The woman gives her new information about S Robotics company involved in a huge financial fraud scheme. Now the conspiracy inside Living Robotics comes fully into the light. As Christian pushes deeper into the financial architecture he's already mapped, the picture that emerges is far darker than a simple embezzlement scheme. The shareholders who have been dying, it wasn't random, and it wasn't coincidental. They were being systematically removed. Each one held a stake in the company that stood between the conspirator and full ownership. With each death, the ownership picture shifted. The pieces were being cleared from the board one by one. And the man behind all of it? Lamar Blackburn, the founder, the visionary, the humanitarian, the man who gave Christian the job. Blackburn engineered the entire scheme himself. He stole from his own company, used the stolen money to accumulate stock, ordered the deaths of the shareholders standing in his way, and then hired the one forensic accountant precise enough to find the trail, presumably, so he could verify that it was hidden well enough to survive the scrutiny of a public offering. He didn't expect Christian to find all of it. And when he realizes Christian has, Blackburn does what powerful men do when their carefully constructed world starts collapsing. He pivots to justification. He built something real, he argues. The prosthetics division restores lives. Children walk because of what he built. The money, the manipulation, the bodies, all of it in service of something larger than himself. Christian listens to all of it, and then he makes his decision. But the film still has one more revelation waiting, and it's the one that hits the hardest. Braxton, the dangerous, precise professional who has been hunting Christian and eliminating anyone connected to the investigation, is Christian's younger brother. The little boy from the flashbacks. The one their father trained right alongside Christian. The one shaped by the same philosophy, the same discipline, the same loss. They came from the same place. They were built by the same hands. And somewhere along the way, the world sent them down completely different paths until those paths finally collide in the middle of a firefight neither of them entirely wants to be having. Their confrontation is raw in a way that the rest of the film's action sequences aren't. Braxton blames Christian for their father's death. Years of unspoken grief and resentment pour out between bursts of violence. And underneath the anger, underneath all of it, there are two brothers who grew up protecting each other and have spent years not knowing how to find their way back to that. Christian tells his brother, "When you need me, you call me. Not anyone else. Me." It's the most emotionally direct thing he says in the entire film. And finally, the mystery at the very heart of the story resolves. The anonymous woman who fed Ray King his intelligence for years. The voice that guided him through his career without ever revealing herself. The person who has been quietly steering events from a distance longer than almost anyone in the film realizes. Her name is Justine. She lives at a specialized neurological institute, the same kind of facility, it turns out, where Christian was nearly left as a child. The one his father refused. She has autism, and she cannot speak. She communicates through an advanced computer system that translates her thoughts into a voice. And she is, without question, one of the most formidable intellects in the entire story. She has been tracking criminal networks, processing intelligence, and feeding information to King for years, all from inside a care facility that the world largely forgot about. The institute is funded by anonymous donations. Enormous ones. Consistent, year after year, from a source that never identifies itself. Christian Wolff has been quietly funding the place he was never allowed to stay. The place that might have changed his childhood. He built a life inside the most dangerous corners of the criminal world, and he spent most of what he earned making sure that children like him, children the world doesn't know what to do with, have somewhere safe to be. In the final scene, Dana receives a package at her door with no note and no explanation. She opens it and finds a painting, expensive, museum quality, unmistakably the one she quietly admired the one time she visited Christian's home. He noticed. He filed it away. And when everything was over, he made sure it reached her. And Christian drives away in a truck containing everything he owns: money, weapons, the evidence of a life lived entirely outside the lines. He disappears back into the world, the same way he always has. No announcement, no destination, just motion. He'll surface again when someone needs him. He always does. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, like and share. Also, I need to hear from you in the comments right now. Did the reveal that Braxton was Christian's brother actually land for you? Or did you piece it together before the film confirmed it? And what about Justine? Did that ending hit the way I think it hit? Drop your thoughts below. I read every comment, and I want to know what you think. See you in the next one.